Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. Now today we are going to have a look at the M60, the American tier tank, medium tank, which is pretty much like an M48 pattern. Now there is a tale of the M60 and not a lot of people know what actually started to happen, or what happened with the M60 when it was actually first introduced to the game. So we're going to have a look at the stats of the tank. We're going to compare what this tank is actually like against the M48 pattern. So people say it's exactly the same. People are saying there's a few tanks out there, the IS-6, the IS-6 Fearless, the T-34 and the T-34 Independence, they're all the same tanks. However, the M60 and the M48 pattern are actually slightly different. So the DPM, of course, is exactly the same. The penetration is exactly the same. The alpha, exactly the same. Rate of fire, reload, caliber, shell velocity are all exactly the same. However, the M60 has better aim time at 1.63. The gun dispersion is exactly the same, a little bit there different, and the gun depression is slightly better. So it's 10 degrees of gun depression on the M60 compared to 9 degrees of gun depression on the M48 pattern. The speed is the same. The power to rate ratio is slightly better on the M48. The terrain resistance is better, etc, etc. The armor profile, however, is also better. So the turret armor is 194 on the M60 and 187 on the M48 pattern. The whole armor as well is slightly better. Not much better, but it is still slightly better. So we're just going to go into a couple of battles and talk about the M60. We know the M60 and the M48 pattern, they've always been good tanks. They've always had a very, very strong turret. So the ideal playstyle of the tank is, of course, get in a hold down position because it has the gun depression and it has a very, very strong turret. The only thing it didn't have a few months ago was DPM. It was sort of lacking on the DPM side, and the whole armor was very, very weak as well. So it wasn't good at brawling. It wasn't a good tank for brawling because you just don't have that armor profile when you're in the open, and you didn't have the DPM to deal with the other medium tanks in tier 10. So now Wargaming they've buffed the DPM, so it is kind of equal to all the other medium tanks out there, and it's still got that strong turret. So ideally, if you can get yourself on a ridgeline, you know you have the DPM to deal with these guys, and you have the turret also. But when you're in an open field like we are now, it is still a bit more difficult to play this tank, but it's a little bit easier now. It has the DPM, of course, but as you can see, like, you can't really bounce anything because it's quite a tall tank as well. It's quite high, so it's not really good at face hugging either, because you just get penetrated. They can shoot your hull very, very easily, and it makes it more difficult for you, because if you come up against, say, a T62A or a T22 or even an E50M, they all have strong turrets, and because you're quite high, if you're face hugging a tank, you're only really going to see their turret and they're going to see your hull. So that kind of situation is not the best kind of play style for this tank. And as you can see, I'm always trying, because it's not the kind of map for me, I'm not in the kind of position where I can get all these bounces. So I'm using what I can. And of course, I'm going to use this tank so they can really only see my turret. And they are shooting HE. They're doing damage, but they're not doing as much damage as they could be doing. So ideally, you have to still get on a ridgeline, and you can really bully tanks. Once you're on that ridgeline, you can really bully the tanks, because it's a very difficult pen. Yes, it's got the hatch that can be penned, but it's not the easiest of turrets to pen. It's a very difficult to penetrate this tank when it is in a hold down position. So I mean, we do pretty well there. We're going to get around about 3.7k. We're not going to get the kill on the T100. So we're just going to go into the next battle, and we're going to show you just what the tank is like when it is in that situation where you can go hull down. And of course there is no other map like Mines that you can do this. The Mines is a great map for tanks that have gun depression and tanks that have a turret. Of course we've talked about it, how there are too many tanks in tier 10 now that all have the same play style. Of course Wargaming should change that up a little bit when 9.1 comes into action. So yeah, I mean, get yourself on a ridgeline. That's all you got to do. Get yourself on a ridgeline, because if you're not, you're going to get bullied. You are going to get bullied. Now this guy here, he does bounce to T62 the first time, but as you can see, he twisted his tracks just as the T62 shot him, so he only got his tracks. But when you're in this kind of situation, you've got the waffle up there, you've got the Foch. It really is a difficult pen, and they're gonna get bullied, and you can actually bounce quite a lot of shots. We've talked about, I don't think a lot of people are calling for Mines to get gone. They're calling for Mines, especially in tier 10. You've got some maps that are only available sort of tier 7 and up, tier 6 or tier 7 and below. This should be one of them, in my opinion. Mines should be one of those. It should only be available for sort of lower tiers, because in tier 10 especially, because there is so many tanks that are only good for hold down, this is the perfect map for them. Now even this Object 2684, he's front line. He hasn't got the gun depression, but he's still got the turret. And if he's sitting still, then yes, you can penetrate the hatch, which our guy's doing here. But if that guy was moving backwards and forwards, side to side, it's going to be a very difficult to pen that Object 268. So obviously there are a couple of heavies that have tried flanking around, which is good. I mean, the whole team are here. The whole team are here. They just need to be careful, because what these two heavies have now done has turned the attention to the whole team. So as you can see, the whole team have now turned to face these guys. The guys on the hill, the Object 268 and the other guys up there, could have actually started to push over the hill, but luckily they don't do that, but they should have done that. They should have started pushing. As soon as these guys have turned their attention to these heavies, they should have started to push. But the guys have come back. They're all working as a team. The 268 has managed to push up the hill, so there is a tank up there that is getting bullied. The IS-7 is just getting bullied, but they left it a bit too late. They've left it a bit too late. So now our guys managed to farm up 4.3k damage. He's still got a lot of hit points left. The T5041 is just going to get ripped apart there. And now the Object 268 version 4 is up here all alone. But the best thing about that, he doesn't quite have the gun depression. So for him to get the shot off, as you can see, he's going to have to come out in the open and pretty much expose himself. And with so many tanks around this area, the same as the Foch here, the Foch is going to have to come up. You can see he's not in a great position, and because he can only really see the turret, he hasn't got the gun depression. He only shoots the turret. So our guy now has managed to block 870 damage. He's on 4.8k damage himself. I mean, look at this armor on this guy, absolutely incredible. But yeah, I mean, he's trying. The Object 268, he's still trying. He's moving backwards, forwards, and it is working. You can see there, he can still get the bounces, but he's not in the best of positions to get these bounces, because not just the bounces, but he's in the open and he doesn't quite have that gun depression. So not the best positions for the 268. And actually he done quite well, and that's a very difficult tank to deal with. So they've managed to get rid of him, and now this Foch is pretty much all on his own, and he's just going to get ripped apart. And of course there is the waffle just around the corner as well. So our guys managed to save pretty much all of his hit points. He's on 3 kills. Now he can just rush in. So he has bounced 1,400 damage, being in the position he's at. There are a couple of mediums, of course. You've got the STB, the 121, and even the T62 that have the same kind of playstyle on a ridge, but those tanks are more bully tanks. They can go front line, and you can brawl a lot easier in them tanks. So this tank, I wouldn't say is an absolute brawler. You're probably going to be worse off if you're the one brawling. So just try and sit back, save your hit points, because if you haven't got a ridge to sit on, you're going to get penetrated. So the story of the M60, no one knows about. No one knows how the story of the M60, I mean, you guys probably know how it come into the game, but we got given this. A lot of players actually got given the M60 for nothing. Now, there is rumors out there it was because the threshold, you had to spend so much in the game, and if you spent so much in the game, you get the tank. But that's not entirely true, because I've known people that haven't really spent anything and they got the tank, and I've also known people that have spent an awful lot and they haven't got the tank. So we don't know. It's something that Wargaming have never told us, and they will never tell us what the criteria was to actually get this tank. And it's annoying. It is annoying in a way, because I got given a free tier 10 tank, and we don't know why. No one knows why. Even as a CC, Wargaming will not tell me, and they will not tell anyone. People are just assuming what it is, but it's not that. It's not how much money you've spent in the game or how long you've been playing the game. It's none of that. So even to this day, what, 6-7 years on, we still have no idea how this M60 came about and how we were given this tank. Now, what is slightly annoying is we got given the tank for a reason that we don't know about. But what's more annoying is the fact that they're also selling the tank. They also sell the tank, they bring the tank in crates, and that's what I don't like. You know, we was a selected few people to get the tank for a reason. Yes, we got it for free, fair enough, but maybe keep it as that. Just like the IS-6 Fearless, you know, it stays that. It was always a competition tank where you had to win a competition for the tank. They've never sold it, and this is what the M60 should have been. But, you know, it's not. In my opinion, it is a better M48 pattern, but not majorly different. The 1 degree of the gun depression, of course, does help on a ridge, but it's not massively different. So if you don't have an M60, I wouldn't rush to get one. I wouldn't rush to get one, because the M48 pattern plays almost exactly the same, just a few little stats that are not as good. So let me know your thoughts on the M60. What is the reason, if you've been here a while, what do you think the reason was that we got given the tank? So I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye. With